In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to color line art. To begin with, we have to go up to our image and check the mode. We're going to notice that it's RGB. That's what we want it to be. If it's something else, then select RGB so that then the check mark will be next to that. The first thing I like to do is normally there's a background layer, so I duplicate the layer that I have, the first one, duplicate it, and I'm going to call it my background. I'll click OK. And of the choices that I have here, I'm going to choose the paint bucket. It's right underneath the gradient tool. If the gradient tool is exposed, select it, hold down the drop down, and choose the paint bucket tool. From there, I'm going to be able to select different colors. I'll click on my color palette and I'll find a color that I want to go with. The first one will be the background or the sky, so I'm going to find a medium blue color and say OK. I'll make a new layer for each color. I'll double click on the layer and call this one Sky. With it selected, I'll then click the background. Now some of you might do that and you'll find that you have a problem. I'll click the Control Z. If the All Layers is not selected and you choose this, you're going to notice that it makes a nice blue background, but it hides everything else. So if that happens, Control and Z to undo, choose the All Layers and then select it. From that point, you can select the background and it looks pretty good. The next thing I'm going to do is make another layer. And in this layer, I'm going to choose a different color. I'll choose a red. So I'll double click it, type in red, make sure that's my area or layer that's selected, go to my color, pick a nice red color, and I'll say OK. And I'll start to use the same tool to do some coloring along this line. There we go. There's my red layer. Now you probably noticed when I did that, that highlighted these areas that were not chosen from the previous layer. I did that on purpose so that I can show you another tool. And that tool is called the Eyedropper. We'll choose the Eyedropper, select whatever colors on the screen that you want, and you'll notice that changes the color. In the sky layer, I can then choose my paint bucket. I can color in the areas that are missing. If it's too far out, I can use my Control plus key to get in a little bit closer so that I can get the areas, and then Control 0 will take me back out to the main screen color. Let's go in here and make another layer. This layer will be orange, or actually it's going to be your hair, so I'm going to just type in hair. I want them to be descriptive enough that later on, if I need to look at it, I can tell what that layer is. So I want an orange, so I'll come in, find an area of the orange, and that ought to work. And I'm going to color her hair in with this orange color. And now I think I want to set off her eyes, make them kind of a green color, so I'm going to make another layer. I could call it green, but in this case I'm going to call it eyes. Well, try that again. E-Y-E-S. Then, from the eye area, I will zoom in because I'm going to want to make these eyes green. So I'm going to do Control plus, and then I'll scroll into the area where I want to get the eyes. I'll choose my paint bucket tool, choose a color. In this case I'll use a green and get a nice bright green for her eyes. Select it in the center. And it's still a little hard, so I'm going to go in one more time, Control plus so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Now I'm going to zoom out. Control 0. That takes me back to the full screen. At this point, I can go in and change a few other things if I want to. Well, let's go ahead and select the pants. We'll change those. I'm going to type in brown. I could have easily typed in pants, something so that it's descriptive, that you know what the layer is. And we'll choose a brown color. And I'll go ahead and color in the pants with the brown layer. And now I want to get her skin tone, and that's a little bit harder, so I'm going to show you another technique to get into the colors that you want. And this one right here, a new layer, and I'm going to call this one skin. And I want to get a color, but I'm going to double click on my color palette. I'm going to go to my color libraries, and in there I'll choose a color where I can find maybe a skin tone. This one doesn't look too bad for her, so I'll choose this color right here and say OK. Now as I select, it may not be perfect, but it will work for our purposes. Now as I start to select her, you can see she's starting to come to life. Many times I'll get a color right from the palette, such as the area I'm going to do for her tongue and her other area. I'll go to the red layer. I'll choose with my eyedropper this color. Then when I click on it, I can see what the color is like. I want the tongue and the mouth area to be a little darker, so I'll select that, go to my tongue, put it in there so she has a little darker, and I'll let the same color that was on the hat be the color of the inside of her mouth. There we go. Looks pretty good, and I think we can probably live with that. Now I'll do part 2 of the video in just a moment. That's where you do the dodge and the burn tool, as well as add text.